It's Monday, April 10th, 2023. It is 7 p.m. Chief, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Okay, roll call. Calhoun.
Here.
Barnwell.
Here.
Wells.
Here.
DeMoss.
Here.
Finch.
Here.
Osenga.
Here.
And Mayor McClure.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. We're now to citizen comments on any subject except items scheduled for public hearing. If you want to speak on a public hearing item, you need to speak at that particular time. Otherwise, the other items are available for you to speak on. You have 3 minutes per speaker, and we allow 36 minutes total for this agenda item, and it's a sign up at first, and then if we still have time, I'll take show of hands. So, Mr. Deputy Clerk, what do we have?
The first person signed up is Leslie Jacoby.
I believe she's in the hall. Could you ask Leslie? Yeah, I saw you out there. And I didn't mention, we have a table now, or a desk here for you to sit at, and we'll just need your name and if you live inside or outside the city limits, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Leslie Jacoby. I live outside the city limits. I'm here to testify in support of a substantial increase in base student allocation. This is important for our residents and the future of our community. I'm advocating for the pool in particular because swimming is near and dear to my heart and the heart of my community. I'm representing Seward Tsunami Swim Club, myself, and my daughter Lydia Jacoby, Alaska Swimming Olympic champion. She wanted to testify tonight, but she's already in bed in Texas, so she missed it. I grew up in Alaska, and I've lived in the maritime community of Seward for 30 years. We need our pools to be open and open year-round. Currently, the Seward High School pool is closed for 2 months in the summer, making training difficult for our high-achieving athletes. This closure is detrimental to all of our user groups. Closing swimming pools hurts our kids, seniors, community members that need it most. There are many user groups in the facilities, including AvTech, local hospitals, the Alaska Sea Life Center, and it's used for physical therapy, kayak guide training, and more. A petition supporting these same ideas now has over 5,000 signatures. The petition and attached signatures and supporting comments will be provided for the record. We also seek support for additional need-based and fairly distributed funding. Please support an increase in the BSA to keep our pools open on the Kenai Peninsula. It's a matter of public health, and swimming is an important life skill. It's a sport that can save lives. Alaska drowning rates are amongst the highest in the nation. Let's see. To close our pools would be to abandon the core mission for which KPBSD is funded. Please help the school district by supporting the increased BSA to fund the necessary budget. Swimming is a life skill, essential for public safety, public health, and mental health. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Who's next?
Mark Fraud. Mark Fraud.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Okay. For the record, my name is Mark Fraud, and I live in the city. I am the PE teacher at Seward Elementary School, and I've been teaching across 6 decades and 40 years. In all that time, I have never seen funding for education in such a dire strait. We have all experienced how much inflation has cut into our own pocketbooks. This too is true in education. The BSA, base student allocation, has been stagnant since 2017. We are losing programs and students are losing opportunities. It is extremely difficult to retain and attract educators, especially in Alaska, where educators do not have a pension or Social Security. And I would add, we are the only state that has neither of those. On February 28, 2023, the Legislative Finance Division Director stated to the House Finance Committee that today the base student allocation is the lowest it's been in 20 years, adjusted for inflation. From 2011 to 2022, the base student allocation has increased by less than 5%, while Alaska's Urban Consumer Price Index has risen more than 24.6%. The BSA would need to increase by $1,348 to match the buying power of peak year 2015. There are 2,100 fewer educators in Alaska classrooms today than 10 years ago. There are 1,500 open positions across the state of Alaska for educators. There are 1,000 fewer certified classroom teachers in Alaska than in 2010-11. On January 27th, the State Education Committee heard a detailed presentation from researchers with the University of Alaska Institute of Social and Economic Research. After crunching the numbers and adjusting for costs and inflation, they found that in 2019, Alaska spent less per pupil on public education than the national average. Imagine what the numbers say now after 2 years of very high inflation. The Alaska Association of School Boards is urging lawmakers to consider an increase of at least $860 to the $5,960 per student amount. That number, recommended by the Anchorage School District and adopted unanimously by association delegates last year, accounts for inflation between 2017 and 2022. And would translate to a roughly 14% increase over the current student funding rate. The Fairbanks North Star Borough passed a resolution in support of increasing the BSA. The Ketchikan Borough passed a resolution in support of the BSA. The City and Borough of Juneau passed a resolution in support of an increase to the BSA.
Mark, that's your 3 minutes. Can you give one sentence wrap up?
I will. Thank you. I'm sorry. The Kenai KPSD is facing a $13.1 million deficit. I urge you to support a substantial increase to the BSA and Resolution 2023-043. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Who's next?
Okay, next on the list is Micah Van Buskirk.
I'm Micah Van Buskirk, inside city limits. I am also president of our Seward Schools Site-Based Council. For more than 10 years, our Seward Schools Site-Based Council, it's a group of administrators, teachers, staff, parents, and community members, has worked hard to improve educational opportunities for Seward students and families. We have studied the state and borough and district budgets to try to understand how this funding works. We have found many inequities in how the funding formula allocates staffing and resources to our Seward schools. Last year, City Council approved 22-043, which was for requesting funding changes to the Seward schools to ensure equitable educational opportunities for the youth of Seward. Specifically, along with Site Council identifying these inequities. We have caught the attention of our district administration, who has acknowledged that many of these things need to be re-examined. However, due to the lack of increase to the BSA since 2017, their district cannot implement any changes, but instead have had to make more drastic cuts. Tonight, our school board is having to approve a budget to cover their $10 million plus deficit. This budget eliminates our art teacher from our middle school and our high school. We've already lost music from our elementary school and music from all 3 schools and art from our elementary school. This budget also will require our high school to eliminate 1 additional teacher, our middle school to eliminate 1.5 teachers, and our elementary school to eliminate 1.5 teachers. Our schools are already critically understaffed. Another position loss in each of these schools will require larger class sizes and the loss of more electives, all electives, and even core subjects in our high school. We will also lose many support staff, including our student support liaison, who does critical work with our high schoolers in distance education, career planning, and on-the-job placement with our local businesses. And then there's our pool. Without an increase to the BSA, our pool manager will lose her job. Our pool will be closed indefinitely. This is the pool that created Olympic gold champion that teaches our elementary school kids to swim, and that has a largely successful swim club. Today we are asking you to approve Resolution 2023-043, not only to keep these drastic cuts from happening this year to the teachers and staff that we all know and love, but to enable our district to follow through with their promise to re-examine the formula for Seward and hopefully provide more equitable staffing for our community. Our kids and our community need this increase, not a one-time lump sum of money, but a reliable increase to the formula that will allow our district some security and stability so that they can address the inequities in the formula, and our families will know their children are getting a quality education. In addition, last fall, our site council requested that our student resource officer position be reinstated in our school. This was a huge priority for our city and our schools before COVID, but it went away during COVID. I know staffing has been a concern, but I noticed in the city manager's report that 6 out of 7 patrol officers have been, those positions are almost filled. So we especially hope that you guys can put that position back in our school. There's so much going on, and we need that.
Thank you. And who is next?
Okay, next on the list is a Heather B. Barterson. There she is.
Oh. Yeah. We just need your name and inside or outside.
My name is Heather Barterson. I live outside the city limits. Good evening, council. I have lived in Seward for 36 years. I moved here when I was 2, and I graduated from Seward High School in 2004. My husband graduated from Seward High School in 2005. Currently, our family has 4 generations of our family living here. And I can't tell you as a mother just how disappointing it is to see that my own children do not have the resources that I had, do not have the opportunities that I had. And it's becoming, we have no intention of leaving. However, we have to do something as a community to make a difference for the next generation of Seward kids. So also, in the time that we've lived here, we've seen many things come and go from our community. And lately it seems that most things are leaving, creating less and less opportunities for our community and the next generation. And our family, all 5 of us have learned how to swim at the Seward High School pool. Leif and I are not very good. However, our children seem to be doing much better, and they are now a part of the Tsunami Swim Club. They have excelled. My oldest child is the fastest in her age group, and we're really excited to see what the future holds for all of our children, because we're really enjoying something that is available for them to get their energy out of. So obviously, like, it took a lot of time and money and dedication to get to this point. And it's really great that we can provide something for our children that we didn't have. In the last 10 years, I can recall 3 times that the Kenai Peninsula School District has threatened to close our pool due to lack of funds. It is also very devastating to come from a very art-centric and music-centric family to know that my children have no access to art and music in their school. Losing the pool would be a huge blow to our community, clearly, and I strongly encourage you to speak out for my children and for all of the children in our community to raise the base student allocation. Thank you.
Thank you. And who's next?
Nobody else is signed in, Mayor.
So that opens it to anyone wishing to speak for 3 minutes on any subject other than the public hearings. Is there anybody sitting here that would like to? Okay. We'll just take you in order and then move around.
Christine Casagranda in city limits, mother of 3 children, and here to support Resolution 2023-043. I watched the arts dwindle drastically with my 2 older girls as they moved up. It seemed like every grade that something was going to be available, something was cut. And it is very sad that we have no arts within the schools, and I feel like all the speakers before me did a very good job of covering everything that was going to be cut. It's my understanding that we just got theater back, I think, 2 years ago, and it's my understanding that that will be cut too, and I could be misspeaking. I'm not as knowledgeable as everybody else. I just put Ryder into swimming because we really need something to do here in the winter. AvTech kind of does it, but it doesn't totally do it. The hours are limited, and there's really no structure. And so it really truly would be devastating to lose our pool, and I appreciate that this is on the agenda, and I trust fully that you guys will all support it. And thank you for your service.
Thank you. Cindy, your hand came up next.
Thanks. Cindy Eklund, Inside City Limits. I would like to encourage everyone here who is in support of Resolution 2023-043 to contact your state representatives and senators and ask for this increase to the BSA. We need to email them, text them, call them. I will be voting for the Kenai Peninsula Borough Assembly to fund the school district to the cap. As you all know, the sales tax from our borough goes directly to education. If you can throw in any more sales tax dollars, we'll take it. I will also be seeking any way I can to find an amendment to the draft Kenai Peninsula Borough School District budget to keep major things that are real important to me and to the whole school district. As a past career guidance liaison, which is now the student success liaison, it is really important to fund that position because so many of our classes have gone to distance learning because of the cut in teachers, and now we have to do classes online. And as a strong supporter of the arts, it saddens me to think that we could lose the theater manager. We've already lost so many arts. It's just not fair. They are around in the other schools, but if we lose teachers, we can't put teachers in those positions. But the most important thing to the Kenai Peninsula Borough should be the safety of our citizens. And without our pools to teach people, kids, how to swim when we're surrounded by water, I think that is just an injustice. But the school district can only put as much money out as they can get from the state. So the state has to give first, and then the school district can fund these important things. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, yes, go ahead.
Good evening, I'm Benjamin Pister. I live outside the city limits. Like most of those before me, I wanted to ask the council to lobby our state legislators to do what it takes to provide enough funding for the pool at the high school to stay open. We use that pool to teach our kids how to swim, and it's a nice alternative way to get exercise. From ages 1 to 4, more children die from drowning than any other cause of death. From ages 5 to 14, drowning is the second leading cause of unintentional death after motor vehicle crashes. One way to reduce that risk is to teach children how to swim, but you can't do that without a pool. When it's dark and cold and rainy, swimming at the pool is an excellent alternative way to get exercise, especially for young people. By the way, Seward is projected to get a lot more of those kinds of days and nights as our winter temperatures get warmer, especially during the shoulder seasons. It's also one of the few facilities we have in town where younger students can regularly participate in athletic competitions as individuals instead of on a team. And that means more opportunities for more children to experience the benefits of physical activity and athletic competitions. Access to that pool for our children is one of the things we are most appreciative for raising our children here. Without it, it will certainly be another reason we have to leave the area. I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben. Is there anyone in the hall that wants to speak? If there is. Thank you. So, yeah, there's a chair, and then you need to give your name and inside or outside.
Seated. Okay. Tara Swanson, outside city limits. I'm here to speak in support of 23043. And I don't want to be redundant. Everything everyone said before me, I 100% agree with. Our schools are in dire need of meaningful funding, but I just want to address the people that maybe are on the fence about this. I get living in Alaska and living in a small town. Part of the reason we're here is because we want to do our own thing, right? Like, why do you want to pay more money for kids that are in school if you don't have kids that are in school? But I think that it's easy to forget the role that schools play in our communities and especially in small towns. We don't have backups. We just have the one. We have the one public school. We have this one system. And just in the way we support and fund our transportation and our hospitals and our prisons, we need to fund our schools. They're part of our infrastructure and they're part of our systems. So I support this resolution as an educator and for the quality of our schools, but I also support it for promoting economic diversity and stability in our towns. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the hall that wants to speak? Okay. I always need someone, come and sit there, and then if you'll give your name and if you live inside or outside the city. And then you get 3 minutes.
All right. I'm Dr. Henry Burns. I'm the principal at Seward High School, and I live outside of the boundary. As everyone said here before, public school is in a dire need. I ask everybody else too, and I know everybody's said this before about supporting the amendment to pass BSA. Right now, I'm looking at cuts across the board, and that's like the worst thing in my job. You know, I have to tell teachers and people that might not have a job, and that's not good. My heart goes out to families and the community about the pool and stuff that I can't control that I wish I could. That's one of the things that irks me every day. Is like I try to, you know, instill, you know, community for the kids and what they want to achieve, and it's just, you know, just seeing everything just being cut or how you can say diminished a little bit. I know you guys are the first step, and I've already, you know, said my piece to the State House already, but I just want to ask you guys to support it, support the pool, support our teachers, and support this community. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to speak? Okay, is there anyone else in the hall that would like to speak? Last chance. Okay, I'll close this portion of the meeting and we move on to the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda. And I'd need a motion and a second, please.
I'll move to approve the agenda and the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any changes? I'll start with one. I would like, if, with permission of council, to move resolution 2023-40 to become the first item of business. So there are a lot of people about this, if that's okay with everyone. It would appear at 7C at the very beginning of the thing. Okay, so that has been moved. Other changes? Yes, council member.
Yes, I would like to pull resolution 2023-041 from the consent agenda.
Okay. Any other changes? Last chance. Okay, I think we're ready to vote then, Madam, or Mr. Clerk.
Okay, so we're voting on the agenda and the consent agenda. Resolution 2023-041 has been removed from the consent agenda, and the resolution requiring public hearing 040 has been moved up ahead of the other public hearings. Is that correct?
I wanted to move it up ahead of the resolutions to make it the first item. So we would hear it before resolution 2023-041.
Okay.
Just absolutely first.
All right, absolutely first. Okay.
Almost the same thing.
All right, ready to vote? Osenga?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
DeMoss?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
Okay, the agenda and consent agenda have been approved. And approved on the consent agenda is Resolution 2023-042, authorizing the city manager to execute the R&M engineering task order number 2734.33, providing for recurring basic engineering services and appropriating funds. Resolution 2023-043, requesting the State of Alaska legislators make a meaningful increase to the base student allocation BSA for public schools. And Resolution 2023-044, approving the acceptance of the 2023 Volunteer Fire Assistance Grant, VFA, in the amount of $4,229.32, and authorizing and appropriating a 10% match of funds in the amount of $469.93. Also approved are the appointment of the election board for the special municipal election on May 2nd, 2023, and the appointment of the canvass board for the special municipal election on May 2nd, 2023.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have proclamations and awards, and I have a proclamation. Public Safety Telecommunication Dispatchers Week, April 9th through 15th, 2023, and we have someone, yeah, they're coming in. Could you come up here? I'm going to stay here, and if you could just stand here. This is Misha?
Yes, ma'am.
Misha. Okay, and I'll read the proclamation. Whereas the week of April 9th to 15th, 2023 is recognized nationally as Public Safety Telecommunications Week, and whereas Seward Police Department dispatchers work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day to help keep the community safe and protected, and whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the Seward Emergency Communications Center. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year, and whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services, and whereas public safety telecommunicators of the Seward Police Department have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. Now, therefore, I, Sue McClure, Mayor of the City of Seward, Alaska, do hereby express my sincere appreciation in honor of the men and women of the Seward Police Department Dispatch Division, whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. Dated this 10th day of April 2023, and signed by myself. And I will give you this. And do you want to say some words? No. You don't want to say
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. Okay, we're down to the city manager's report. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have two items that are in addition to the written report on the in the packets. The first one is regarding it's Camp Spot, which is our online host for the campground reservations, and the system crashed and has been unusable, and so I want to pass on some information about how it's being resolved. Dissemination of information, a PSA went out via the clerk's distribution list and posted to the website, Camp Spot main page, Facebook, and outgoing message on phone. Current customers with pending issues also receive PSAs. There's been a daily email updates and 12 p.m. meetings with Camp Spot, and Finance has been attending those as well, and we're keeping them entirely in the loop. There are, to resolve the issue, there are 2 Camp Spot representatives that are on site here in Seward. I believe it is tomorrow or Wednesday, and they'll be here through Friday. They are going to see on this end what happened. They now know on their end what happened, but on this end what happened and what the Parks and Rec employees have to deal with on this end of things, and it's a great opportunity for training as well. So they'll be here to resolve it, and we do want to thank them for that, for jumping on and helping to resolve the issue right away. On the first day that the site went live for reservations, there were almost 1,200 bookings, and with varying issues, including duplicate transactions, payment but no confirmed booking, booking but no payment. And as of today, there have been 300 that have been resolved. Phone calls are continuing. In fact, from our office, Shannon is helping with Parks and Rec and returning phone calls to make sure that there are reservations. As I stated, CampSpot is coming on site, and they will also interact with those customers that, for whatever reason, the site messed up the booking as well. I really want to thank Parks and Rec. As you know, there's a lot going on in this time of year, including trying to get the campground ready for the campers. And so rather than their attention being on that, they've had to work with the CampSpot site. That will be continuing and improved, and obviously having the CampSpot people here in Seward will make a very big difference. And I'm really thankful that they took it seriously, they being CampSpot. I also wanted to read a statement that I had done so at the end of February, and this, I want to read it again and then expand on it a little bit. And it's in response to the questions that we're getting regarding the electric sale, and also to make sure everyone's aware that on April 12th and 19th at Gateway, from 5:30 to 7:30 are two open houses, town meetings really, regarding the matter. But I just want to read this again, and I'm going to read it verbatim because I don't want to mess anything up. On May 9th, 2022, City Council passed Resolution 22067, directing the city manager to develop a timeline and a process for examining the advantages and disadvantages of selling the city electric utility. Since that time, and after a thorough assessment that included 3 executive sessions, the council decided to proceed with a special election scheduled for May 2nd of this year and selected Homer Electric Association, HEA, as its preferred electric service provider following a formal request for proposals. In addition to receiving a bid from HEA, the city received a proposal from its current wholesale power provider, Chugach Electric, CEA. In comparing the two proposals, the total financial submissions were very close, with each coming in between $37 million and $38 million over 10 years, less depreciation. As shown in attachment A, which is attached here, and I do have copies, and it also be provided to the clerk's office for the public. Each utility also committed to increasing its fixed cash offer at closing to cover any additional investments made by the city for electric system improvements. For the council, the two proposals were close enough that other factors stated in the offers were used to determine which utility would be the right choice for Seward. This process included hearing from each utility directly during an executive session on October 27, 2022. Some of the key factors included community fit. While the council believed both utilities would be able to provide Seward with long-term energy security, council members felt HEA was better suited for the Seward community. There was a concern from council members that CEA, being a much larger utility, would not place as much emphasis on Seward's community. HEA was clear in its presentation that it wanted to be a strong partner for the community, even committing to rebranding its utility from Homer Electric Association to Kenai Peninsula Energy Cooperative. HEA also pointed to the many political and business relationships and other synergies HEA and the City of Seward already share across the Kenai Peninsula due to their location on the peninsula. Board representation. HEA also committed to adding a membership district for the Seward area, ensuring representation on the HEA Board of Directors. While the seat would ultimately need approval through a vote of HEA members, HEA said that Seward area electric customers will be allowed to participate in that board vote once the sales transaction is formally approved by the Regulatory Commission of Alaska. Also, prior to regulatory approval, HEA said the city would be able to appoint a non-voting interim board participant through a selection made by Seward City Council. Long-term rate strategy. While the council is fully aware that HEA's rates today are higher than CEA's rates, the council believes, based on the presentations from each utility, the gap in rates between the two today will close in the future. During its presentation, HEA discussed in great detail the investments it made over the past decade in generation resources, energy storage capabilities, customer-focused technology, and cybersecurity. HEA further explained how these investments have positioned the utility well for meeting the future industry and regulatory requirements. With many key operational and technology investments already made, HEA pointed to the stability it will realize in its member rates as other utilities across Alaska are beginning to make similar investments. The council recognizes that HEA's rates may never be as low as CEA's, but council members believe rates between the two utilities will become more competitive and that HEA's strong focus on the community and customer service is worth the trade-off. In conclusion, a key concern of selling the electric utility that council discussed on several occasions is how the city would offset the electric department's annual contribution to the city's general fund, which in 2021 is approximately $2.1 million. One solution that would offset the sizable portion of the annual general fund contribution is the creation of a trust fund using sale proceeds after debt is paid. Annual dividends from the income generated by the fund would go into the city's general fund. Accounting estimates project that as much as 40 to 60% of the 2021 contribution would offset. Throughout the council's assessment, its primary focus was to ensure a more secure energy future for the city's electric customers. This council firmly believes that it is in the best interest. This is best achieved through a merger with a larger electric utility, where there are more human and financial resources, an opportunity for a longer-term rate stability due to a larger customer base, and expanded operational resources that ensure system reliability. Today's Seward is trying to manage the changes occurring in the rapidly changing electric utility industry with only 10 employees and other limited resources. While City Council feels a merger with HEA is in the best interest of Seward, council members also believe this is the best decision. The decision is best left up to the voters, the citizens in the May 2nd special election. And I do have the proposal, analysis of the proposal, the financial proposal, and then an explanation of Seward electric rates and the projection that the rates will increase along with a graphic of that. This, I have copies if anyone who wants a copy tonight, and like I said, it will go to the clerk's office so that it will be made public. And also, the proposals themselves are public documents, so anyone who's interested in viewing the proposals, please put a request in through the clerk's office, and it'll be provided to you. And that's all I have, unless there's any questions.
Okay, are there questions for the city manager? Okay, I see none. So we go to the city attorney report, which appears on page 93. And Mr. Severin, are you still on the phone there?
I am, yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. I know we have a lot on tonight, so keep it brief. I think a lot of it was because we started working on some of the home electric. The transaction in general has kept us busy in the last few months, and that was a lot of our work so far in 2023. Something that I think the council should be seeing fairly soon is amendments to Title III to kind of modernize with current practices and just clean up some of the things. A lot of it is things that have been handled sort of informally through policies and trying to codify what needs to be codified and put into newer policies, what needs to be in policy. Title III is regarding personnel. Kind of a big rewrite project that should be wrapping up soon. And I guess that's that's probably enough expansion for now. Some work on, I guess also, and I always mention this, and I do it because I enjoy the enforcement stuff, but the work on short-term rental enforcement and permitting, and just trying to have a more robust system in place to work on those issues.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Severin? Okay, I don't see any questions from council. Thank you very much for your report. Next, yes. Oh, yeah, it wasn't listed. City clerk report, sorry.
I just want to mention that I wanted to say thank you to the election board and the canvas board people for volunteering to serve. And regarding the upcoming special election, on Monday, April 17th, we start absentee in-person voting in the clerk's office. Registration is closed for that, but even if you don't think you're registered, please come and vote. It's for City of Seward residents. If you wish to vote by absentee by mail, you have to apply for that. Applications will be accepted through April 25th for that, so come to the clerk's office for that. And I just want to clarify, for HEA, council did pass a resolution to support, and they are actively promoting and influencing the outcome of the election. That's all on the record. There is a provision when the polls are open, starting Monday from 8 to 5, up through Election Day, while the polls are open, there is a prohibition about campaigning within 200 feet of City Hall. Those notices are posted on the entrances to City Hall. I can give them to anyone who wants that. So during those hours, there is no discussion, pro or con, about the sale, about any of the measures that are on the ballot, either of the propositions. So after hours, when the polls are closed, no problem. But I just want to remind folks that during open poll hours, there's no campaign. So any questions, just give me a call.
Thank you. That was really important. It just wasn't, you didn't have anything listed as a page, so I skipped right over it. I'm sorry.
Just a question.
Question for the clerk?
Yes,
Sure.
ma'am. Thank you. How do people, if they're interested in getting onto one of the election board or the canvassing board, how soon prior to an election do they need to do that? I'm assuming they need to come to your office?
I'm so happy to take volunteers for that at any time. Somebody can just call and say they want to serve, and then at the next opportunity, we'll reach out to them. Because we just have a short list of people who have expressed interest, and so I'm willing to take any volunteers. They have to be registered voters inside the city limits.
So anybody at any time can come and let you know that for future reference?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's a really good question. Other questions for the clerk? Okay, we're now down to presentations, and we have a presentation on invasive chokecherry tree removal by Jen Chavette. And there is it's present in our packets too.
Hi.
And you have 10 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Good evening. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to be here. My name is Jen Chauvet, and I work for Homer Soil and Water Conservation District over in Homer. And we have a couple other Homer Soil and Water folks on the phone, I hope still. Catherine and Patrick, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay, maybe we lost Catherine.
Catherine, are you still on the phone? Perhaps not.
Okay, well, perhaps not. I was hoping she'd be here to potentially answer questions if there were any, but she has a young baby, so she may have had more important things right now. In any case, so I am here to share with you a little bit about this tree, these invasive chokecherry trees, and about a project that we've been working on with the city to remove these trees from city properties. So to tell you a little bit about us first, so Homer Soil and Water coordinates a peninsula-wide partnership called the Kenai Peninsula Cooperative Invasive Species Management Area, or KP-SISMA, which is made up of government agencies, nonprofits, and tribal entities that work to protect the peninsula from the most harmful invasive species. Locally, Kenai Fjords National Park and Chugach National Forest are both really active members in the partnership. Peninsula-wide, we coordinate on outreach and education related to invasive species, surveying and monitoring, and also invasive plant treatment. So a little bit of background on invasive species, just to kind of give some context. When we talk about invasive species, we're talking about any living thing that's not native to a particular place, but that also causes damage to the place where it's been introduced to. So that can be environmental damage, economic damage, and or harm to human health. And we're really concerned about them because they can reduce the ecological, agricultural, and economic value of the land. They decrease native plant populations and degrade habitat for our fish and wildlife. And they're also super expensive. So currently, invasive species cost the U.S. about $140 billion each year. These are a few invasive plants you might recognize from around town or maybe from your yard, maybe hopefully not from your yard. Typically invasive plants spread around sort of accidentally, if you will, by things that we do every day, whether that seeds just sort of attaching to our shoes or our clothes or our vehicles or construction practices. But sometimes we introduce them on purpose. And these chokecherry trees, or sometimes called European bird cherry or Mayday trees, are a really good example of that. These trees were originally brought to Alaska as an ornamental tree. They're real pretty and they survive our winters. And so people really took to them and we planted them like crazy in our yards and in parks throughout cities. They're a really common street tree in Anchorage and Fairbanks area. But they've become a huge problem and they're one of Alaska's most problematic invasive species. Just like they did well in our yards, they do really well outside of our yards. Birds really love those little black cherries there, and they'll eat them and carry them off into the forest and then regurgitate the seeds. And then they've planted a new tree and we're finding these things invading our forests and along our streams and our rivers in some really remote areas, in fact. So these trees, they're really aggressive growers, which is what makes them so successful. So they outcompete our native plants, including things like willow and alder, which are great food for our moose. They spread along salmon streams, and research has shown that they change the availability of prey for juvenile salmon, and they can be toxic to moose. So there are two species that we're mainly concerned with. There's Prunus patus and Prunus virginiana, and you'll find both of these trees planted in Seward here. You can tell them apart mainly in the fall, late summer, when Prunus patus's leaves will turn kind of a yellow color, and Virginiana turns into that dark purple color. And I'll mention there is a third species, Prunus mackii, that is not as invasive as these two, and you'll see those in Seward as well. They have a kind of copper-colored bark instead of the gray-colored bark of these two, and they are not one that the state considers something that should be removed. They're not quite as big of a deal. So in 2020, we did a survey here in Seward and found at least 100 of these trees in town, and about approximately 30 of those on city properties. Since then, we've had several community members who've come across some of these trees and reported them to us. Most of them in the Two Lakes area and in Forest Acres Park, so kind of in that campground area. So we know that the trees are spreading from places, people's yards, where they were planted intentionally, into these more forested areas. So what do we do about these trees? Well, first of all, we recommend don't plant them in your yard, and if you have one, to remove it. Beyond that, once the tree is planted with any invasive plant, we look at 3 different options. The first being manual removal, which is like basically to just pull it, mechanical removal, which is, to like take a chainsaw to it, and chemical control, which is always our last resort. So with these chokecherry trees, manual removal can be effective for the little ones, but you have to get the entire root system. Mechanical removal, unfortunately, is entirely counterproductive. It actually stimulates the growth of the tree. So you cut it down, and you end up with like 100 more of these things in your yard. Even the cut branches left on the ground can resprout and create these big thickets. So with these chokecherry trees, the only effective option is herbicide use, because that kills the entire root system. There are 2 techniques that we use here. You can see in that upper picture of what we call a frill treatment, where they make a little cut into the tree's trunk and then squirt a little herbicide in there. The other technique is to first cut the tree and then immediately apply a bit of herbicide around the edge of the tree. And in both cases, what happens then is the tree sucks down that herbicide into its root system, and it kills the tree completely. So nothing's going to come back. And since with either of these techniques you're applying the herbicide directly to the tree itself, there's really little to no risk of that damaging any nearby plants or moving away from that area. So we tend to think this is the benefits far outweigh any sort of risk associated. There's very low risk with this sort of treatment. And this is the result if you don't deal with them right away. It can turn into a really, really big nightmare and a really expensive problem. So we'll circle back to Seward. So through funding from the Division of Forestry, Homer Soil and Water has had the opportunity to provide some outreach here in Seward, and also to work with the city to remove trees on city properties. We came over last summer and removed several of the trees that are in Forest Acres, or were in Forest Acres, and 2 Lakes. And we plan to come back this spring and continue removing the rest of those trees, as well as trees on other city properties. And I'll just finish by saying that, in collaborating with the city on this, it's about a lot more than just like getting rid of some trees. Hopefully it gets the word out about how damaging these trees can be, and encourages folks to remove trees on their own property, because ultimately that protects, the native landscapes and the wildlife, the places that we all love and depend on. And I know you all here in Seward have some pretty amazing places and a lot of wildlife that's really worth protecting. So thanks. And I guess if there's any questions,
Well, thank
I
you.
can answer.
I happen to really like them because they're the first trees that have leaves in the spring.
I know,
I watch
I know.
my neighbors' Mayday trees, and they're just coming out right now, believe it or not. So I understand.
Yeah, I know.
I see why people liked them. Question, yes, Councilmember Wilson.
Yeah.
Well, I just realized that I have a bunch of these trees on my property. When you put the map up and the little red dots, I was like, yep, that's my house. So where do I get the herbicide to take care of this problem? Because obviously we want to whack them down before they start sprouting, right? Before they start to bud.
So, excuse me, Patrick, are you still on the phone?
Yep.
Oh, Catherine's there.
Catherine's also on too.
Okay.
I can speak to that briefly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, I accidentally hung up earlier. But we have, through a current grant that we have right now, we can offer landowner support in treating the trees with herbicide. So if you are an interested private landowner in getting herbicide assistance, please get in touch with us and we can coordinate with you. And then, Patrick, if you want to talk about the timing of the herbicide and cherries, feel free.
Sure. Okay, so I heard the question of get them before they leaf out. That's not actually the best way to do it. You want to get the tree when it's actively in photosynthesis, when sugars are moving up and leaves, the sugars moving down to leaves. So basically, when it's green and growing is the best time to treat it. If we can get it before there's ripe and viable cherries on the tree, that's a little bit better, but obviously they've done that for years in the past as well. But ideally, when the tree is growing and before the fruit is set or ripe.
Perfect. Thank you.
Other questions for any of these knowledgeable people about Mayday trees? Well, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, and definitely get in touch if you have questions or questions about removing trees. And you'll probably see Patrick, maybe see Patrick around in May.
Okay.
So,
Chopping down trees.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
I've had a request for a 5-minute break, so we're going to take a 5-minute break, and the next item will be the public hearing on Resolution 40. So, 5-minute break. We'll be back at 8. Okay, now I'll bring the meeting back to order. And having moved Resolution 2023-040 up to the beginning of our items, we will hear this now. Mr. Deputy Clerk, would you please read this into the record?
Okay, Resolution 2023-040. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Seward, Alaska, approving a conditional consent to terminate lease between the City of Seward and Uris Mindenbergs for lease of Lot 3B Block 1 Marina Subdivision, and approving a lease between the City of Seward and ZPA LLC of Lot 3B Block 1 Marina Subdivision, Breeze Inn.
Okay, thank you. And this can be found on page 251 of the packet. I would need a motion and a second to approve this, to act on this. Do I have a motion? I don't have a motion. And without a motion and a second, the conclusion is that this is off the agenda, correct? It's failed.
If there's no motion.
Right, so we can't take it up. One more minute. Okay, then I guess we won't be hearing this item tonight. And it dies for lack of a motion and a second, I think is how you say it, correct? Okay, I am moving along. We're back on the regular order of things. And it having removed, we can't talk tonight. Resolution 2023-041 was removed from the consent agenda. Madam?
Oh.
Yes.
So we were going to continue with the other public hearings, the
Oh, we're going to
ordinances
do
for
the public
enactment.
hearings? Oh,
And
okay.
the resolution
And then go back, sorry.
2023-041 will appear under 10A, under new business.
Oh, that's right. You know, I never get that right. Someone's, okay. Sorry. You know, if we look back eventually on the recordings of this, you'll see how many times I've not done it right. So I guess it's a humbling experience. All right. So everything else, but beyond that, was in resolutions and other items was approved on the consent agenda. So we're at the rest of the public hearings now. And let me tell you about public hearings. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per person, and after all speakers have spoken, the person may speak for a second time for no more than 1 minute. And we have 3 of these tonight, ordinances. And the first one is Ordinance 2023-007. Mr. Deputy Clerk, would you please read this into the record?
Okay, Ordinance 2023-007, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Seward, Alaska, adopting Seward City Code Chapter 5.60 to establish a trust fund from the sale of Seward electric services. This ordinance was introduced on March 28th, 2023, and is coming tonight for public hearing and enactment.
Okay, so it's already been moved. Administration.
I'm sorry, I need a motion to enact.
Even,
It was
it was moved to introduce. Okay, we need a motion and a second to enact
I move
ordinance.
to enact 2023-007.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Now administration.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This ordinance comes before you as the council directed through Resolution 2022-087. This establishes the trust fund from the proceeds from the sale, should the voters approve the sale of the electric utility.
Okay, thank you. So I'll now open the public hearing for ordinance 2023-007. Mr. Peck, has anyone signed in for this?
There's nobody signed in for this one.
Is there anyone in the audience? I'm assuming people are out of the hallway now. Thank you. Would you check? Okay, so now I can just speak to you guys. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this? Okay, Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council. Any discussion from council? Councilmember Calhoun.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My only discussion, being that I am not a financial expert and we don't have, a finance director and stuff, for us, I guess I just want to make sure that, that everybody understands exactly what this is going to do for us and that it's tight and clean. There are some other communities like, Cordova and I think Skagway that may have done similar things. And I don't know, if we looked at any of those to model what we're doing, or I guess my concern is I just want to make sure that we don't rush into something. I know we need it. I just want to make sure that it's all nice and tight and that the community understands that this is going to protect the proceeds that we have left after we've paid off the debt and everything, and that it's not something that the council, is going to be able to dip into, because it talks about, just the voters voting on things if there's a use of it that's not in there. I guess just a kind of a discussion on that from the people that put it together would be good.
Yeah, Madam City Manager.
This ordinance was written by the attorney firm, and I'm not sure if Sam is still on.
Sam, are you still there?
I am.
He is.
And, I did not write this. I was involved when we were sort of thinking about it. I know a couple of communities were mentioned. Anchorage also has one, and Alaska does as well. And I know that when we were putting this together, we, looked at a cross-reference of a number of those. And also, one of the things that is built into this, as you just kind of read through it, recognizing that attorneys, some are financial experts, many, including myself, are not. And so there's a lot of things, like if you look at 560.080, it talks about putting in contracts with investment managers, and, investment policy may be established by the city council by resolution from time to time and modified. So some of those things are, meant to be fluid, and recognize that none of us are financial experts or have a crystal ball. So I think it was designed to be fairly user-friendly, but also I believe it sets a percentage that, what was that? It had a minimum draw of something, or excuse me, the maximum draw of, I believe it was 4.5%, and I've just lost it. So there was an effort to draw on the collective wisdom of the other cities that have done this, as well as to create a balance between a level of permanence and predictability, but recognizing that it needs to be fluid enough to change the conditions on the ground and get other council or investment professionals to weigh in from time to time. So there was a real effort to address the kind of things that you said, but explaining whether it does those, I'm not sure. I think the discussion would be appropriate.
Does that?
It helps.
Okay.
It helps.
Councilmember Barnwell.
Yeah, I agree that we should look at this carefully, and I think it would be interesting or prudent for us if whoever we choose to, if we could have a discussion as a council with them to see what the terms are and kind of take a more active role, at least one or two of us or some of us, so that we know that's a lot of money we're responsible for, and I would like to know some of the details before we got too far along in the resolution of it.
Madam City Manager.
So a couple things. First, it was directed by council to have this before you and adopted prior to the vote, and so that's where it's coming to you. And second, that the funds will be, the council will select an investment policy, investor for the funds as well. So you will have the other side of things. The council will approve the investment group that will be managing the funds. So that will come before you at a later date. But this does set that framework and to protect the funds, so to speak, so that way it goes into an account that is not connected with the city as far as our regular accounts. It will be held by that investment firm. We have a similar setup for our bonds. We have to hold an amount for our bonds. There is a technical term, but it's not coming to me right now, but it has to be held, and those are held off also by a separate investment firms that the only time we have access to is when the bond is paid off. So you will have that other piece later when it is sold. And do keep in mind that the closing could be a year to 18 months. So then there is time to still deal with the investment firm that will be managing the funds.
Other questions from council? Councilmember Calhoun.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. So if I understand, and you can obviously educate me if I don't, if we pass this resolution tonight, then we have the opportunity before it really takes place, because that's not going to happen until after closing, an opportunity to, maybe have a couple of work sessions or something, or talk, find out more, and we can change, stuff. We're not going to be locked into whatever this is saying right now, because that's my biggest concern. You can read it, and I'm not an attorney. I don't understand all the stuff that's in there, but it'd be nice to have some more time and have, other, financial people kind of be able to gloss it. So as long as I know that we have a chance to adjust and change and fix before we actually lock the money into something, that's my biggest concern. So.
Okay, Madam City Manager.
And I would agree, there is time to do that and to work through it. As you know, but more so for the public, the council directed that this framework happen, that can be changed. The framework could be happen to ensure the citizens that the funds would not come in directly into the city's main accounts. It would be set aside and really locked into this other fund. But yes, there's time, and then like I said, through the investment firm too, to go through it with them as well, to see how it would work with them.
Thank you for that. Other questions, concerns? Are we ready to vote? Okay, ready to vote on the ordinance.
Okay, voting on the enactment of ordinance 2023-007. Wells?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
DeMoss?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
Okay, that ordinance has been enacted.
Okay, thank you. The next item for public hearing is ordinance 2023-008. Mr. Peck, could you read that in when you get ready?
Okay, ordinance 2023-008. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Seward, Alaska, repealing and reenacting Seward City Code Title VII, Public Property for the City of Seward Recodification Project. This ordinance was introduced on March 28th, 2023, and is coming tonight for public hearing and enactment.
Okay, thank you, and you'll find this on page 173 of the packet. I'd need a motion and a second for enactment, please.
I'll move for the enactment of ordinance 2023-008.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Administration, what do you have on this?
Actually, Madam Mayor, it's the clerk's.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Madam Clerk.
Madam Mayor, the majority of the changes, the updates to this title are actually coming from the attorney, from the recodification process itself. There were identified some language that needed to be updated or clarified. There are some terms, like the term director, and, sorry, let me just point out a couple of areas. On page 186, here's the highlights. Page 186, the harbor master did provide some updates to some definitions that were pertinent to the harbor area. Page 194, the attorney provided some updated language regarding electrical deposits for reserve moored account customers. That was an important clarification that needed to be included in there. The term hearing officer was stricken and replaced by city manager because the city just doesn't have a hearing officer in that regard. On page 198, there was operating under the influence that was stricken from this language because state statute applies, and so it's unnecessary in here. And on page 203, we are codifying that lodging, short-term rental lodging, is prohibited on vessels in the harbor. And that's an important thing that has not been codified in the past and has been challenged. But that is from the Coast Guard regulations, there is no egress from a vessel that meets our code. So that's why that's prohibited. And then, I'm not sure that there's, and then there may be some other, page 217, there's some more refinement in definitions, removing some things that are either unnecessary or just clarifying some language. In a nutshell, a lot of it came from the attorney review process, and then the department heads had some good input as well.
Okay, thank you. I'll open the public hearing on Ordinance 2023-008. Has anyone signed in?
Nobody has signed in, Mayor.
Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council. Council, what you got? Questions, concerns, discussion? We're an easy group. Looks like we're ready to vote? No, not quite ready to vote. Council, that's okay,
Madam Mayor,
I'm stalling.
I just,
Councilmember Calhoun.
a quick question, because I noticed a change that I missed before, and I apologize for that. It's on page 216, and it's burial site reservation. And so we're going to have the city manager is going to control burial site reservations as opposed to the clerk's office? Isn't, I mean, people go to the clerk's office now, don't they, to get burial permits and things like that?
So the city clerk's office does do burial permits, but the reservations are managed under the city manager through the community development department.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So they just added city manager as opposed to city?
Just to clarify, because it was quite generic and vague, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, other questions? Last chance. Okay, I think we're ready to vote, Mr. Penn.
Okay, voting on the enactment of Ordinance 2023-008. Calhoun?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
DeMoss?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure.
Yes.
Okay, that ordinance has been enacted.
Okay, so we're down to our last public hearing item, and it's Ordinance 2023-009 on page 222 of the packet. Mr. Peck, could you read this in for us?
Okay. Ordinance 2023-009, an ordinance of the city of the Seward City Council amending Seward City Code 15.25 floodplain management, adopting recommended language and regulations from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. And this ordinance was introduced on March 28th, 2023, and is coming tonight for public hearing and enactment.
Okay, I need a motion to enact and a second, please.
I'll move for the, I'll move the enactment of Ordinance 2023-009.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Administration, who wants to speak to this?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Director Bigby.
Okay, kind of thought that.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. So yeah, FEMA has updated their language in regards to floodplains, and we do have areas in our city that are in floodplain zones that participate in the National Flood Insurance Program. And so they give us a model ordinance, and then we kind of take that and fit that into our code, because they may have something in that model ordinance that we don't have, like we don't have mobile home parks in our, so we kind of take those out, so we're not introducing something in. So basically we've taken their model ordinance, modified it to our code. We had a work session with planning and zoning and the flood board, and then we ran it through the city attorney as well. So we feel like we have a good ordinance in front of you.
Okay. Did you have anything to add? Okay. I'll open the public hearing on ordinance 2023-009. Mr. Peck, is there anyone signed in?
Nobody is signed in.
Okay, is there anyone wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council. And I do have a question. I was going to just suggest you stay up there, but we could have had public. My question is about the flood board. Were they all in agreement with how this is? I mean, are they comfortable? Obviously, they met with P&Z and you guys all agreed?
Yeah, they were comfortable with it. We went through it together in that work session. We went line by line through the new code and talked about the new introductions, what that means, and obviously Stephanie Pressey is very valuable in helping interpret those discussions and putting into our codes.
Right, because I've been through a few of these before, and sometimes there's things that people vehemently disagree with or something, but there wasn't any of that within this then. Because a lot of it's stuff that, you know, you don't run into every day, except for the floodboard people. So.
Right.
Questions from council? Councilmember Calhoun?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. No questions, just a statement to support this. I watched that work session and listened to all of it as they went through it, and I think we all can be pretty comfortable about what we're voting on tonight. They did a really thorough job with that. So.
It's on my backlog of things to watch, so. Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? I think we're ready to vote.
Okay, voting on the enactment of ordinance 2023-009. Calhoun?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
DeMoss?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
Okay, that ordinance has been enacted.
Okay, and that's the end of our public hearings, and moving along, we are under unfinished business, items for reconsideration. Am I correct? Okay.
That is correct.
And this would be ordinance 2023-006. Could, Mr. Peck, could you read it in and also maybe explain how the voting on reconsideration goes? Just so we all are up on that.
So an item for reconsideration tonight is ordinance 2023-006, amending Seward City Code Title II, Article 2, Seward Planning and Zoning Commission. This ordinance had a public hearing and was enacted on March 28, 2023. A request for reconsideration was filed by Councilmember Calhoun on March 29, 2023. So to get this ordinance back on the floor, we would need a 2/3 vote. So for 7 members in council, we would need 5 votes in favor of the reconsideration. Otherwise, it's a done deal. The original stands.
And do we need a motion and a second to reconsider, correct? Okay. So I'd ask for a motion and a second to reconsider ordinance 2023-006.
I'll move to reconsider resolution 2023-006.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Mr. Calhoun, you were the one that filed for reconsideration, so would you like to speak first? Remember, we're just discussing whether or not to reconsider, not the whole thing.
Correct. No, correct. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I took some comments that were made at that meeting. It was a long, late meeting, and listening to that, and then I was contacted by a couple of people in the community that are pretty knowledgeable about this commission and how it operates. And so I just felt that maybe there was some clarification on a couple of the way some of the things were stated, and so I've got some thoughts on it if it does come back for reconsideration and what we can do. I just think there's some clarification for it.
Okay, thank you. I'm personally kind of against reconsiderations in general, but this one, I will vote in favor of reconsidering because I've had discussions about this with quite a few people, and the language that we're going to address tonight was fairly confusing, and so it's worthy of reconsidering and trying to clean up the language on something that's really important. So that's my opinion. Anyone else want to speak on whether or not to reconsider? Okay, then I think we're ready to vote on reconsideration.
Okay, voting on the reconsideration of ordinance 2023-006. Barnwell?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
DeMoss?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
Okay, this item is being reconsidered and it is back on the floor.
Okay, thank you. Now that it's back on the floor, do we want anything from administration, or shall we just discuss the ordinance itself? The ordinance itself? Okay, does anyone have any amendments, perchance?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to offer an amendment to 2.30.210, established paragraph A. And the amendment that I'm going to offer is, starting with there is created the Seward Planning and Zoning Commission consisting of 7 citizens appointed by the council, all of whom shall be an elector of the city and shall have resided in the city continuously for a period of not less than 1 year immediately prior to the date of application.
I'll second that. You want to speak to it?
When I really dug into this and listened to some other, people in the community talk to me about this, the Planning and Zoning Commission is, as we all know, very important. They do a lot of work that really affects what we do, plus just the community in general. And so I think that we really need to have a commission where people have some solid time inside the city, where the codes and the zonings and stuff that they're voting on affect them like it affects everybody else. And so I just feel like I wasn't comfortable with the changes to allowing somebody to live outside the city, although in a limited area, but outside the city, and they could move inside the city limits for 3 days and then ask to be appointed on the commission, where they may really not understand what's been going on inside the city. And it's nothing against people that live out in Bear Creek or Low Point or any of these areas, but I just think if we make the requirements a little more strict than that, then it may take us a little while, but I think we'll get a good solid commission and a history of that, and it's just going to be better overall for us.
Thank you. Discussion? We're talking about the amendment now.
I agree with the amendment, because I know this wording came from when we were talking with the city manager, and that was one thing I was worried about, is this wording avalanche. And it appears to be rolling further than we intended it to be.
Thank you. Other discussion? Councilmember Barnwell.
I like the wording of the amendment. I think it's much more clear. I do understand why the intent of opening that up to Bear Creek, Lowell Point, and I think that might be a problem for some of these boards to get people more people involved. But I just think this keeps it clean. So.
Other discussion? Ready to, Madam City Manager.
And it might be for the clerk, or the council member, and then maybe the clerk. I admit, I got hung up on the word elector, so I honestly, the rest of it kind of slipped by me, but I'm not sure if I'm correct. Would an elector mean someone who is registered to vote, who registered to vote, so meaning they're eligible to participate in an election? Or, I guess, what does that mean? That's my question.
Councilmember Calhoun?
I guess to me, it means that they are eligible to vote inside the city, to vote in city items.
It does mean registered voter.
Yeah, registered voter.
So that means they would have had to register to vote before they could be on the commission. Okay, just want to make sure that I understood that.
That's good clarification.
And
good with
so
that,
voter
Madam Clerk?
registration is at least 30 days, and then the residency is 1 year.
Okay. Does that clarify it for people? Okay, Councilmember Wells.
So I understand that we want to make sure the person lives inside city limits, which then, of course, would allow them to vote, if they wanted to vote, to participate in a city election. But if they don't want to, now I'm just playing the devil's advocate here, if they live in the community, they're still eligible to vote whether they register or not. They just can't, right? So are you saying that they have to be a registered voter to participate? Or do they have to be a city resident to participate? Because it's two different things.
Right. Councilmember Calhoun.
No, and that's correct, and that may be something that I'm not, I'm willing to look at that, because maybe with the clarification that the clerk gave, that elector is actually somebody who is registered to vote as opposed to is just eligible to vote because they're a resident in the city. Then I would, if that's an issue, I would be willing to remove that verbiage, just to make it so that you're a resident in the city for at least 1 year.
So I would agree with you modifying, and the second on that, the amendment, but could you read how it would read with that amendment? We'll vote on the amendment to the amendment, right?
I guess the amendment, to the amendment. So I guess it would read, there is created the Seward Planning and Zoning Commission consisting of 7 citizens appointed by the council, all of whom could be an elector of the city as opposed to shall be? Or just eliminate that altogether? I guess I'll probably use some.
Just try eliminating.
Appointed by the council and shall have resided in the city continuously for a period of not less than 1 year immediately prior to the date of application.
I would agree with that.
Just remove all of whom shall be an elector of the city. Okay.
Councilmember Barnwell.
That's even cleaner, but I just want to play Mr. Wells' case. If they're an elector, if they're registered to vote, aren't they more active in the city politics? And isn't that what we're looking for?
Councilmember Wells.
I thought what we were looking for is yes, that we want somebody who's here to participate, but we want them, from what I understand, we brought it back for reconsideration for clarification, and we want the person to be a resident for at least 12 months, right? Now, are we going to tell that person that they have to register to vote in order to be considered active member of the community? I consider voting an active member of the community, don't get me wrong, but my point is that not everybody who's an active member of the community who is a resident is also registered to vote. It doesn't mean that they don't care any less about the community, is my point.
Further discussion. We're talking about the amendment to the amendment, and then we vote on the amendment, is this correct? Or can we just vote on the new amendment?
As long as the body does not object to modifying the original amendment, you can proceed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So are we okay about modifying the original one when we get to the voting of it? Okay. Other discussion? Yes,
Just, Madam Mayor, just one
Councilmember.
other question, actually, just to make sure that this amendment we're voting on does not delete the last part of that sentence that says, "and who shall be appointed by the council." It's only changing the stuff that was added. I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that that last part is still there since it's not in my amendment.
So, okay. Would you reread what we're going to vote on then, please? Mr. Calhoun, you've got it in front of you.
The way it would read is...
Just to make sure we're on it.
As a whole, it would read, "There is created the Seward Planning and Zoning Commission consisting of 7 citizens appointed by the council. It shall have resided in the city continuously for a period of not less than 1 year immediately prior to the date of application, and who shall be appointed by the council."
Okay.
That's how that,
That would be the whole section.
the whole section.
Okay. Are we ready to vote on that?
Sorry.
Madam City Manager.
Sorry. I could be completely wrong, but I think now it says appointed by the council twice. So does your amendment say consisting of 7 citizens appointed by the council, and then who shall be appointed by the council? I could have totally messed that up. I'm just asking.
No, you're right, that was a
Okay.
good call. It is redundant.
Okay, so, Mr. Calhoun, can we further modify to make it read better?
I guess so, I'm just not seeing what they're telling me when I read it.
At the beginning of this, at the beginning, you put appointed by the council, and then in closing of the sentence, it says appointed by the council. So it's in the paragraph twice.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah. So
Okay, could you read it
I will read it.
again, please? Thank you, Madam City Manager.
English was not my strong point.
It's all right.
There is created the Seward Planning and Zoning Commission consisting of 7 citizens appointed by the council that shall have resided in the city continuously for a period of not less than 1 year immediately prior to the date of application.
Period.
Period.
Okay. Are we,
What,
Councilmember Wells?
sorry, is it a period or is it a comma, and who shall be appointed by the council?
No, because we already did that.
Because you did it in the beginning.
Right.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
I understand now.
Are we clear and are we ready to vote on the amendments? I think we are. Mr. Peck, do you want to
Okay.
call the roll?
Voting on this amendment, Barnwell,
Yes.
DeMoss,
Yes.
Calhoun,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
Finch,
Yes.
Wells,
Yes.
and Mayor McClure.
Yes.
So that amendment has passed,
Okay.
and the main motion as amended is back on the floor.
Okay, any other amendments or discussion on the ordinance? Anybody? No? Okay, I think we're ready to vote on ordinance 2023-006.
Okay, so voting on the enactment of ordinance 2023-006 as amended. DeMoss,
Yes.
Wells,
Yes.
Finch,
Yes.
Barnwell,
Yes.
Calhoun,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
and Mayor McClure.
Yes.
Okay, that ordinance has been enacted.
All right, thank you. So now, we have the item that was taken off the consent agenda, which is Resolution 2023-041, which I've cut out part of this, so I don't know what page it's on. 14. 114. Mr. Deputy City Clerk, would you please read this in for the record?
Okay, Resolution 2023-041, authorizing the city manager to execute task order number 2734.32 with R&M Consultants for the surveying and staking of the Jesse Lee Home property in the amount not to exceed $18,977 and appropriating funds.
I'd need a motion and a second for approval.
I move for
the approval of Resolution 2023-041.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Administration, you want to speak to this?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Director Bickling.
Madam Mayor, council members, so this resolution is in regards to having the survey done so they can restake the southern portion. It's kind of one of those things as we're looking obviously further to hopefully getting beyond the DEC thing and the development. But if you go and look at the southern boundary where those, I don't know what you call them, like the pedestals of where the gates used to be, and along there, obviously when the home was there, developments happened around it. But we just want to be really sure because if you, I mean, you're in people's backyards at that point, and before we do any type of development, we want to know where our property line is because we feel like if you look, people's backyards have gone beyond those points. And so we just want to make sure that we have a really good understanding of where their property and our property is along there. It was kind of brought to our attention in the fall. And so as we're looking forward to future plans, we just want to know where our boundaries are. I mean, obviously all the way around, they're going to put our markers back if we need them, but it's that southern boundary that's the issue that we really want to know where it is.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Calhoun, you were the one that took it off consent?
I did. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And the reason I did that is more for some clarification and understanding. So in all the stuff that we've done up there, we've never had it surveyed. It was never surveyed before?
That is correct.
Wow. So we did all the concepts and everything with the cul-de-sac and all that, and never had it surveyed. Okay, so obviously it needs to be done. Is there a reason that something like this, we wouldn't go out with an RFP? Because we, just as an example, if you just give me a second, I appreciate it. We had all 6 of the cemeteries surveyed, which is a fairly big job, for just under $8,100. And so I don't want this to sound like I have an issue or anything with R&M, because I don't. They're a great company. I just think that sometimes if we can maybe look at stuff, take a little time and decide, because surveying, it's an important thing, but there are good surveyors, they're good companies. And if we did, maybe once in a while, we'd do an RFP and see if we could do a little better price-wise, because we're looking at almost $19,000. And it just seemed like that, to me, that appeared to come out as a lot of money when there might be some less expensive options available if we went out and asked.
Okay, let me just ask Mr. Bickling, did this include staking? Is that a rather expensive part of it? Like fencing, or what are you talking about?
So we have the plat, which is actually a very old plat, because that property has been obviously around a long time. But we don't, when they create that plat, a lot of times they go and they drive survey markers in the corner, but that property over time, the survey markers are usually gone and been pulled out, those types of things. And so we just want to understand where our property is. I think it's, and again, it's the area against private property. So when you pay for a survey, they're going to have to go back out and reestablish those corner points if they can't find them, which they said on older properties it's pretty common not to find them. And so you actually have to kind of go and do all the deep surveying work. And then we want to have that southern boundary actually, like have them put stakes in the line so we can see it all the way down, and then take pictures. So we know in fact where our property is and where the private property owner's property is.
So then this might, just to follow up on that, this might be more extensive than what was done at the cemetery.
I can't speak that because I don't know what was done at the
well, there was no
cemetery.
staking, I guess, so
Yeah,
I mean, that's
I
what
know.
I'm wondering about
Sorry,
that,
it was.
maybe. There was staking. Okay, that's why I'm trying to clarify too, so, okay, I'll get you in a second. Councilmember Tomas.
Yeah, staking comes along with surveying. It's just like a few wooden sticks. So I do agree that the $19,000 is high, in my opinion, with what I've dealt with in the past. And I'm just wondering if there is a time issue or restraint, if you are on a schedule of some sort, and if we did decide to put it out to RFP for this, what time frame would we be looking at? Would that be constricting?
I think like an RFP put together, put out a notice. I mean, that just once you get the RFP developed and put out the notice, it's usually about, I think you can do about a month process-ish, 5 weeks.
Madam Clerk?
Maybe a bid or even just quotes, maybe more time efficient.
Yeah, we just do quotes.
Councilmember Finch?
I know historically in Seward, for staking, they would put metal rebar or metal posts. Does our plat show any of that on there, which they normally do?
Right now, they couldn't determine that because it's underneath the snow. But yeah, that's obviously the first thing that they look for is to go find the rebar with the cap on it and that type of thing. So now, and the price would be cheaper. It might be about 2/3 if all those were in place. So.
Councilmember Finch?
Because I know we got surveyors in town, and that's a lot of money. Why not keep the money in town and hire the locals to survey something that they've all lived around?
Councilmember Wells?
Well, first, I'd like to say, thank you to Councilmember Calhoun for bringing that up. Of course, I looked through it and I saw it and I was like, yep, okay. But you're absolutely right. I've had more than my share of properties in town surveyed and had people come from Anchorage and or Soldotna and have never seen a price tag like that. And I would be in full support of putting that out for bid.
Okay. Further discussion on this. I'm not sure what we would do. Would we fail this and then direct administration to do an RFP? Is that how it would go? Madam City Manager.
Yes, I agree. Fail, because of the cost, it could be bids, to receive bids rather than the full RFP, and that's
Okay.
allowable by Title VI.
Okay. Further discussion, I guess we would be voting on this then, and then direct after that. Okay, Mr. Deputy City Clerk.
Okay, voting on the approval of Resolution 2023-041. Dumas.
No.
Finch.
No.
Barnwell.
No.
Wells.
No.
Osenga.
No.
Calhoun.
No.
And Mayor McClure.
No.
Okay, that resolution has failed.
Okay, so then, I guess I would need a motion and a second to direct the clerk as we,
I'll motion to direct the city clerk to put out advertisement for bids.
The
City manager to put out more bids for the survey of the Jesse Lee lot.
Okay, I'll second that. Discussion? Okay, we're ready to vote on that motion.
Okay, voting to direct the city manager to put out for bids for this project. Finch?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Demas?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure.
Yes.
Okay, that motion has passed.
All right. All right, so that brings us down to item 10C1. City Council discussion and direction concerning, excuse me, I'm going to talk, appointment of interim city manager. So, the way I see this, our city manager will be gone after May 10th, and we need someone to fill in the gap between that and obtaining a new full-time city manager, which, you know, is a process. So I see two options. One option would be to interview and obtain an interim city manager from a pool of interim city managers, or to appoint an acting city manager. That's how, I mean, those are the kind of options I see. And we need to discuss this. And, yeah, Madam City Manager.
There's a report in your packet from the
Right.
HR manager on page 70, who, from the last meeting, council directed about information about interim city managers, so that information is in your packet on page 70 along with some other information. Just wanted to point that out to you.
So the question is, what is the feeling of council? Councilmember Wells, I'll start with you. Go ahead.
Would it be appropriate to have the HR person come up and speak to the stuff in the packet for the community?
Sure. Would you please?
So there is, in the packet, I reached out to AML, and I was given a list of candidates for available interim city managers. There were 7 of them. I reached out to all of them, and I received 3 responses with 2 candidates that actually applied, and 1 declined. They have something else that they were going to do. And as of that date, I have not received any further applicants.
Okay. Follow-up.
Are we able to
Councilmember
know what 2 applicants there are? Or-
They're in-
Oh, it was in there, sorry, I
Yes,
missed it.
it's in your packet.
Okay. Oh, yeah, their application, I did read their application, sorry. Yeah.
There was a hand over here, was it?
I'll go ahead.
No. Councilmember DeMoss.
I didn't see in the applications anything about housing other than one person saying that they would be open to creative solutions. Were you able to have a discussion with either one of them about housing?
I have not yet. I just know, excuse me, the one said they would need short-term housing, and then the other candidate said that they would be open to a creative idea, but yes, we
Right.
would have to find some sort of housing for them.
Councilmember DeMoss.
So I guess my biggest concern with hiring an interim would be that we would have, especially at this time of the year, issue with housing. So if we did want to go that route, I would suggest that we direct administration to immediately start to find housing for that interim and solidify something. I would be probably more interested in exploring our options in-house. Although I don't know if there's been any interest, I haven't spoken with anyone regarding it.
Councilmember Calhoun.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I've looked at these applications. I did notice that both of them had served time in Cordova. And so, well, I served time there. I did try to have some contacts reach out to Cordova for me and check it out, and I did not get any information back on either one of them. It's been a little while for one of them since they were there. But, you know, my thought, quite honestly, I think we're going to be better served if we appoint an acting city manager from individuals that we already have. Financially, it's going to be better for us, because I know one of the individuals in here was asking for $4,000 a week. And we don't pay our current city manager that much, although it's not that far away, but it is less. So I'll just be honest and come out, my thought is I would like us to appoint Norm Regis as the acting city manager until we can get a full-time one on board.
Is that a motion?
Do I need to make a motion? Is that it? Okay, I move that we appoint Norm Regis as our acting city manager. Do I need to include a pay bump? Or is that
I
later?
think that would be later, perhaps.
Okay. Then that's my motion.
I will second that. Discussion? Yes.
Well, I have had a bit of discussion with the harbor master. He's willing to do this. One of the benefits for me is that he's been there before. He's been around here a long time. He's dealt with a lot of things. He understands what's going on in the city. An interim will not know that. They won't have a feel for it. And so I just think we'd be better served that way. Plus, It gives the deputy harbor master a chance to get some good on-the-job training for what could possibly be a future position for him at some point. So I think we get a couple of good things both ways. We don't have to worry about housing, and if we do end up with a pay bump, which would be appropriate, my thought is it's probably not going to equal $4,000 a week. So.
Further discussion on this? I'll get Mr. Finch first.
So, help me answer, does this put this out to public for applications? Is that what I'm looking for, or Norm is the city manager?
My assumption is there's such a thing as an interim, and there's also an acting. He would be acting.
So does it still go out to public for application through the AML and public other stuff?
Are you saying for an interim or for an actual city?
For an actual. For an actual, okay.
Actual, oh yeah,
Okay.
that comes next.
Okay.
This is to get us through that, in between time.
The unknown.
Okay, you had your hand up, Councilmember DeMoss.
Well, the only thing I'll say is that I absolutely support it, and I started out on council with Norm being the acting city manager, so it would be really great to end my council term with Norm.
We'll discuss that later. Okay, any other discussion? We should, yes, Councilmember Blanco.
I am a little worried about Norm coming up in the busy season for the harbor, and just making sure that, I haven't talked to Norm personally about this, but I'm sure they've thought through this with Tony, and that is a concern, though, just it's pretty darn busy. And I don't know what big projects the harbor has going this summer that might influence that. I don't know.
Well, I might also, yeah, you could come up and speak to that. While he's coming up, we also have our assistant city manager on board too, so they've been a team like this before.
Yeah. So Madam Mayor, so last time I was acting, I had 3 projects going on. This time the projects are done. We'll probably have something coming up, but this would be like, so it would be a good time to be training. Tony's doing a great job. It's actually making my life a lot easier, because a lot of my stuff is leases and, government, up here and stuff like that. So, without the projects, it would be much easier this time than last time. So, and then Stephen's great to work with. So, and then we got a great council. That's why I kind of threw my name in the hat to kind of keep things going where we're going, because we're going good places right now. So.
Excellent, thank you. What? Okay, any other discussion on this? No? We're ready to vote on appointing?
Okay, so we're voting to appoint Harbor Master Norm Regis as the acting city manager.
I believe.
Okay. Finch?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
DeMoss?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
Okay, that motion has passed.
Okay. I need to ask for, yes, Madam City
Madam Mayor,
Clerk.
last time Mr. Regis was in this position, we did actually bring a resolution forward and set some terms and some expiration dates and some consideration for his pay while he was acting. So if you wish, we can prepare that again.
Yeah, I was just about to direct either the city
You're all
manager or the
for
clerk,
what?
I'm not sure which one, to bring on the 24th legislation appropriate. Okay? Thank you. Whichever one of you wants
We'll
to
work
do
together,
that.
how's that
Okay. Yeah, that was next on my list. I actually remembered that. We're kind of on this subject here. We're still on the subject. Would it be appropriate to ask this, we haven't really gone to GovHR. We have some information about the city manager. Can we discuss this because it's not on the agenda, or do we have to wait till the next meeting? I guess that's what I want to know. about the advertising for the city manager through?
Well, at the last meeting, you directed the HR, or the city manager to have the HR manager to reach out to GovHR.
Right,
and,
that has happened.
And got a quote for
Right.
it. So it's professional services, you could sole source it, as
Okay.
it has been done in the past, but we should probably bring a resolution forward to contract with them for these services.
Okay, so is there any objection to that? I mean, there's a step that we didn't do where we said, go for it, so that's what we need to do, I believe, to get the ball rolling with GovHR, because we did approve GovHR. Yes, Councilmember Tomas.
I just have a question. Are we approving the $6,000 or the $25,000?
Oh, would you come on up, Shireen?
And I'm sorry if you guys
Yeah.
already covered this, I was
No,
caught this time.
we didn't.
Okay.
That's the problem, we need to get clear.
Thank you. I've been in contact with Mary Jacobs. She's the vice president for GovHR, and right now the quote that they gave us was for limited input from them, meaning council would receive all the applicants, do all the interviews, and from there, they are working on a quote for me for the full recruitment, and that's where they will, we already do the ad for us with this, but they will do all the interviews, they will send to you guys the final candidates, they pretty much just take care of all of it. And right now, that's at $24,500, that was the last quote, and I was supposed to have that today, and they did not get it to me in time, so I'm waiting for that. Mary Jacobs does have a meeting with the city manager tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., and then after that, she would like to speak to the mayor about what it is that council would like to see in their next city manager. And then from there, she will draft the actual announcement.
So would it be better to wait till the next meeting to approve all this, or should we give the go-ahead for, I mean, we have to decide, do we want the $6,000 package, or do we want the $24,000 where they do a lot of the work? I guess that's what we're talking now, or we could push that to the next meeting. I'll get Vice Mayor Osenka first.
So, I guess, we did the full thing last time, we did the full package last time. I think it was because of, they do an awful lot of groundwork with the applicants before they even come to us. So we actually get the benefit that, once they have a chat with us, and they determine what we want, or we give them guidance, then they run with it, and they actually filter out the applicants. I think, I don't remember the exact number, but they did tend to, they weeded out a bunch of applicants the last time we had them. And I think that would be the smart way to go, because I don't know that we have the personnel to do all that legwork.
There were some hands over here, Councilmember.
Yeah, he answered.
Okay. Councilmember Tomas.
I agree with that, I think. It just seems like so much money, but my other thought was, how could the whole council contribute our thoughts on what we want in the next city manager, instead of just, no
Yeah.
offense, but just,
No,
because I think that it would be beneficial if we all maybe picked our top 2 or 3, what do we want to see, or discuss it at least for a minute, and then give the...
And that's not on the agenda tonight, so
Perhaps GovHR could provide a draft, and council can review it at the next meeting and provide input.
Oh, that would be good.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be pushing this to the next meeting then, to a point. Okay, because, I mean, I've heard, that sounds good. Councilmember Wells.
Yeah, so just for my clarification, I guess, are we allowed to vote on spending that amount of money without it being on a resolution to spend it, or?
That's what I don't know. That's why I keep saying
Yeah,
next
so
meeting, next
that's why-
meeting.
You're not voting on that, you're going to direct to have a resolution brought forward.
Okay.
Okay, and then we
With
could,
whatever option you choose.
Thank you.
Madam City Manager.
And to go along with that, I would say that we could do a resolution for the 24th and on our side, because we'll do the full meal deal onto the resolution. So that way you can amend it as you want, just to be able to get it onto the next agenda.
Yeah, because we need to get moving on this. And Councilmember DeVos, it's okay.
I'm wondering, I can't remember where we stand with the finance director advertising. Are we still advertising for the finance director on GovHR, and do we get a deal? Because now we're doing a deal?
No, it is not with GovHR right now.
Okay.
It is just on our website, I believe AML.
Follow? If we did want to add finance director, could potentially be a savings for us at an opportunist time?
Is there a discount?
Yeah, that's, I don't know, maybe
We
it's
can
a
ask.
question, I don't know.
We can ask.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can ask.
Put another push out there for it.
Good suggestion. Councilmember Barnwell.
I'm a little lost on this whole thing in terms of, I didn't know there were different grade options. So there's the full deal is 24. So there's a
6,000.
basic version for 6,000.
Yes.
And we were going to make that decision on the next meeting. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Correct. And I should have I will have a complete proposal from them listing what all services are provided for that amount.
Thanks.
Okay, questions? Okay, so do we have enough direction now that we've covered all the bases? Okay. And so with what we've just accomplished here, I'm just going to say for the public and for us, it appears we don't need an executive session tonight. It was on there to discuss some of the interim candidates, I believe. It was just sort of a, just in case. Okay, so I'm just making sure. Okay, with that, and I should point out there is a clerk's memo on page 303 about special election expenses you might want to read. Would you like to speak to it, or just?
Well, sure. It came as a little bit of a surprise that we're going to be charged this extra amount for programming the machinery. And following this special election, the borough is going to work on amending the memorandum of agreement that we have with them for elections. So that will come to council in the future for approval as well.
Thank you for that. Yeah, these things happen, right? Okay, so with that, unless I'm wrong, we're down to citizen comments. Look, there's a citizen right there. You can come up and you get 5 minutes.
It's good to hang out with you guys. Cindy Eklund, inside city limits. A couple of thank yous. Thank you for voting for Norm to be acting city manager. There's something about local knowledge and the amount of hours and time he's put into things that come before this council, so that's great. On the extra cost for the election, remember last time I reported from the borough that they're buying new machines, so that might be part of it. And I just want to give a lot of kudos to Michelle Turner, who is the acting city manager over there and training new staff at the same time. And they haven't even released the posting yet for her to apply or to end that. So kudos to Michelle. Brenda knows what I'm talking about, yeah. And I want to thank Mr. Calhoun. Number one, thank you for checking that cost, because that was a little too much to pay for one piece of property. It's not even breaking it up at this point. And then also for the change to the Sewer Planning and Zoning Commission Code, I agree that the person should be in Seward and should have been here a while. And I'd like to ask you to do the same thing when you're appointing or recommending for the mayor to appoint someone to the Kenai Peninsula Borough Planning Commission. Because the last time I think they sent over a name, it was someone who hadn't been here a year, and I spoke to the mayor that was there at that time, and he didn't seem to see a problem with it. But now that you've decided to do that for our Planning and Zoning Commission here, I think the borough votes on the sewer comprehensive plan and all the plating that's done in town, and so I think having someone with some, at least a year's local knowledge would be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other citizen out there wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'll move it to council and administration comments and responses to citizens' comments. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And just a couple of things. I wanted to thank you, Norm, for everything. And I wanted to say congratulations to Sam Severn. He just sent me a text. He signed off, but available if needed. He and his wife just had a baby, like, just a couple days ago. So, a baby girl with red hair. And a reminder that myself, Norm, and Vice Mayor Osenga will be in Washington, D.C. the week of the 17th and meeting with our legislators and also with federal agencies. That's all I have.
That's it. All right. Let's start with Councilmember Barnwell.
Excited to have Norm on board with the city manager, or acting city manager. Also, I just want to give a plug for, thanks for passing the resolution on the increase for student funding for schools. I moved here in 1999 from Alaska, and I took a 30% pay cut when I moved to Seward, and I fought my way in here. I could not get an application for Kenai District. I had to know somebody, and it really took me 2 or 3 years to finally get an application and get hired in Seward. When I arrived here, we had art teachers, music programs, full-time librarian. It was a robust school at the Seward Elementary. 2008, we had a blue ribbon, which is a huge distinction for this community that we don't really talk about much, but it really has been, that school in particular is really, I'm biased because I started there, very successful school, but all of our schools. And look at the high school and the performance in the pool with Lydia and that whole program. And these teachers work their tails off, and every year we fight this. I've fought this thing. I've been in Juneau fighting for this. Every year we fight for funding for schools, and it's demoralizing for these teachers and for the people that are involved in it. And our kids, they need more. They need it. And I just thanks for people in this community that understand that and support that. So that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Finch.
I agree with Councilmember Barwell about the school stuff. Simple philosophy: the more money you put in the schools should be less money in prison. So I've seen both sides of it, and I fully support it.
That's it. Councilmember Wells.
Well, I'd like to thank Norm for stepping up as well, and it'll be my first time working with him, and I am looking forward to that. And I appreciate your comments on the BSA and for the council supporting that increase. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Calhoun.
Just along with everybody else, thanks Norm for being willing to take that on again. It's a big job. And also want to, for those people that don't know, want to congratulate Chris Peck as being selected as our next city clerk. I know he'll do a great job there.
Thank you.
And I just want to thank everybody in the community that actually pays attention to what we're doing and gives us the input that they give us, because a lot of times it does help us to make better decisions and see things through other eyes that we may not see ourselves. And it's good to be working with the administration we have, the council that we have that is open-minded and always willing to look at everything from other perspectives. So,
thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. Councilmember DeMoss.
Yeah, just a couple things. Thank you, Norm, for stepping up. I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate your willingness to travel so much and represent Seward. So that's another bonus that we get with you, and it's just really important. And I wanted to congratulate and thank Seward City Tours for stepping up and putting out an RFP for the shuttle service. Again, I believe they were the only ones, and they really run a top-notch business, and they do a really great job. So our community is lucky that they are willing to do that. And I think that's all I have.
Okay, Vice Mayor Osenga.
Well, along with everyone else, thank you, Norm, for stepping up. I'd just like to say, I'm very supportive of our school, and I appreciate all the comments that were made for the BSA and our schools. I think schooling is very important. There was something else I was just saying, I forgot. It's all gone. All right, have a good night.
Okay, well, I'll pick up on that. About the schools, yeah, I'm a product of Seward Schools from kindergarten on, although it was a private kindergarten when I started. But in reference to getting hired, with my degree in chemistry and all that, I really wanted to come back and teach at the high school and teach chemistry and biology, and I have a biology degree too. And in the mid-'70s, I got hired right away because of the pipeline in Fairbanks, and they double shifted the high school, and so I started teaching there, but I kept trying. I bought my property on Bluefield, planning to build a house there so I could teach at the high school. I'm right across the street from him. And finally, I just gave up because, I had a really good job up there at that time, and I never did. But when I retired and came back, I subbed for a couple years, and that was really illuminating. I mean, the elementary school particularly is wonderful. And on the other side of that, being on the Borough Assembly, I watched the struggle every year of funding and funding and funding, and now, so I don't know what the solution is. We had some pretty exciting solutions of funding at the borough back when I was on it, but nothing seems to really happen. I want to congratulate Chris, and he will in May be our clerk, and I can start calling him Mr. Clerk or something. I don't know. I got to figure this out. And congratulations, and thank you, Norm. And I also wanted to thank everyone who came out tonight, those who spoke and those who didn't. There was a lot of passion going on here tonight about a lot of things, and we have undoubtedly the best council ever, because I can come in here with one opinion and change it just based on the brilliance of the others, and I know that happens along here. We think through everything pretty thoroughly, I believe. I feel very much, very grateful for this. And so with that, I think, hold on, I think Vice Mayor Osenga first has he remembered.
I did. I remembered. I wanted to mention the town hall meetings for HES Gateway Hotel, 5:30 to 7:30 on the 12th and the 19th.
That's what I would do. 15th.
12th and the 19th, both Wednesdays. Wednesdays at 5:30.
Madam Mayor.
And Councilmember Calhoun, we're a talkative bunch tonight.
Well, just on that point, just so the people understand how that setup is going to be.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you do it.
Is there are going to be different stations with different people there, so if you have specific questions, that's the reason it was set up this way, rather than at an auditorium and handing somebody a microphone and you sitting there for 3 hours not getting your question answered. So this way you can go and talk to individuals on your schedule. You can come and go and get your specific questions answered, because I know there's a lot of stuff going on out there. There's a lot of information that is not correct, and so this will be a good way for people to get the true story, get all their answers, questions answered, and the harder the question, the better it's going to make it for everybody, so nobody minds getting asked the really tough questions. So please take advantage of these meetings and get as well informed as you can.
Yeah, and thank you for, I had that down. I will be there both nights for the full time, and I've been getting calls because the advertisements for that say dinner, and some of the folks were wondering what dinner means, and I've been told that it's like maybe hot dogs and snacks or something. It's not like dinner. So that's an issue for a lot of people, believe me. So yeah, take advantage of this time to ask questions if you still have some, because we'll be there. And with that, I'll adjourn the meeting at 9:20.
to go back.